When have you witnessed pure evil? Went back to my home country a while ago and went on a little trip to a farm one night with my family and my uncle's family. Their kid was really weird, and when we got to the farm he saw the dogs, went all the way around the fence, like a 2-minute walk, started fucking picking it up one leg and dropping it straight to the ground as high as he could. It was a poor baby, and by the time that I got to him I wanted to literally choke him out, but he was like 9 and I was 13 at the time, so it wouldn't go well. So I grabbed his hand and literally had to drag him away from them, but right before I could he grabbed the dog and threw it onto the ground with all of his strength. The poor thing looked like it was on the brink of death. By the time I got to our parents, my mom was utterly confused and his parents just laughed and said it's okay. I never wanna see them again. The kid is an actual psycho and no one. The older brother of one of my friends killed my sister's pet rat when we were kids. Then he tried to play it off like he hadn't and gave it to his sister so that she would take the blame. I remember her walking up to me and my mom with Sparky in her hands, laying on his back completely motionless, saying, "I think there's something wrong with Sparky." Her brother had snapped his neck by shaking him to death, while laughing. I remember him laughing. He was always weird, but he wasn't really welcome at our house after that. My mom ran into his mother a few years ago and found out that 1, he had recently gotten a girl pregnant, 2, his mother never fully trusted him after he killed our pet, and 3, she was terrified of what could happen to that baby. I saw a man beating what was apparently his 3-year-old granddaughter with basically a tree branch. He was an elderly guy, had to have been 70 or so. This was in the middle of the city, God knows where he even got that thing. This was in Buffalo, New York. Immediately got involved, and I and some bystanders got the cops and they carted the guy away. He was going on and on about how many times he'd been arrested before, almost bragging. The girl had such sadness in her eyes that it never left me, and when I approached the guy to make him stop, the little girl actually ran up to him and was hugging his leg. She must have been so used to abuse at that point that she didn't recognize how evil this person was. The look in her eyes was heartbreaking. I had gone to that city alone randomly to check it out and see what it had to offer, and that was the first thing I saw upon leaving my car. It broke me, and I just spent the whole night at the hotel, then just randomly walking the streets. Yeah, that'll do it, especially kids. Saw the same with some guy beating the shit out of his GF after he nearly ran over her head with his car because she jumped out of their moving car. He stopped and went after her. He was twice her weight easy. I ran up and got between him and her. Be careful when doing this, always keep an eye on the victim, they can turn on you. Now he had someone bigger than him to deal with, kept on threatening me. I said go ahead, hit me, wish he would have, there was cameras all over. Escorted her into the building and handed her off to security there. A co-worker from when I worked in a restaurant had an abusive boyfriend. He was a pretty big guy, easily twice my size in weight, and only slightly taller in height. We're in the process of shutting down, it's officially after 12 when we close, I'm the closing manager and hyped to go home. He comes in to pick her up, and tells her she's going to make him something to eat. She was about to do it, but I said no, we're closed. I'm not going to hold up my close to half an hour to give this dude free food. He goes up to the counter and tries to be intimidating, saying she will make him a pizza. I realize what he's trying to do, hold my phone in my hand, not recording or doing anything in particular with it, and hold my ground. He's officially got me mad because I don't take to being threatened well, but I'm the quiet type of angry person, I don't emote much or raise my voice. But something about how I interact in that state tends to terrify people, even this big dude. He eventually took himself outside until his girlfriend left. She never could be convinced to leave him in any permanent capacity. He would still come in from time to time, but never after close. He also wouldn't come near or match his gaze with me after that. Think he might have ended up going to jail later. When I was a teenager, I used to volunteer in the preschool at church. One week I was helping with the 2-year-olds. We had a new girl come in. Tiny and adorable. By the end of Sunday school class, all the other kids were terrified of her. With absolutely no expression on her face, and totally silent, she had attempted to strangle a little boy, bit another hard enough to draw blood, smacked a girl across the face, poured her drink out on another, and pinched and kicked me and the other volunteer repeatedly. Not to mention dumping her snack on the floor while staring me in the eye, throwing toys in the garbage, and attempting to pull the microwave off the counter. I've dealt with difficult children before, but her totally lack of emotion was very unnerving. I did a stint in the army in Kosovo in 1999. Where we were based were tons of stray dogs and cats. Some fellow soldiers were finding it fun to throw a puppy out of the top floor window and then proceeded to throw a kitten down a very deep drain and laugh as it meowed. I was literally screaming at them to get it out, but they found this even more funny. The look on one guy's face was just pure evil, as if he lived for their/my misery. This is a few weeks after splitting with my wife, and I received a call from her phone with my 4-year-old daughter bawling her eyes out saying, "Daddy, why don't you love us anymore?" She included my younger son. I got through that call as best I could despite the shock I was in from receiving it. A few weeks later, when I picked my daughter and son up from their mom's house, I asked my daughter why she said that, and her response was that I hadn't picked them up when I should have done, and Mummy had told them that I didn't love them anymore. Apparently, the mum had told them I was picking them up on a certain day and had got them ready, with coats and shoes on, etc., but I clearly hadn't arrived. I can't imagine the amount of stress that the children must have felt as time passed by and I didn't arrive. Manipulating innocent children is evil. When I put together the story of what happened to me many years after I was raped, I learned that my rapist had punched and kicked me, an unconscious, defenseless and drugged 14-year girl, in the face and in the torso. He did this for absolutely no reason. Just to be cruel and to feel powerful. I was unconscious and unable to fight, but he beat me very badly anyway. I wasn't awake to witness it, but I vividly remember the excruciating pain, and not knowing how I got hurt back then. Or why anyone would want to hurt me. I didn't know then that people could be so evil, and so cruel. I do know now. Something like this happened to me at a concert. 30 minutes in, the outdoor venue was packed and standing room only. This very good-looking woman in her 20s moved to push her way in front of me. I resisted and said, "Hey." She turned and got in my face and said, "Shut your mouth, little boy, or I'll scream rape and my boyfriend will kick your ass." She then deliberately stood on my foot to pivot away, while her boyfriend flowed his way around me, facing me menacingly the whole time. My only consolation is the thought that one day she'll play "Let's you and him fight" with the wrong fucking person, and will get the opportunity to watch her boyfriend and maybe herself receive the kind of brutal beatdown she was looking to dish out. Many years ago, I worked with a woman who, when she was in nursing school ca 1970, she long since moved on to another career, did a rotation at a state facility for women who were found not guilty by reason of insanity. She said it was really obvious why most of them were there, but there was one woman who seemed totally normal. She asked a staff member why she was there, and was told, She killed her parents. She's the most dangerous inmate we've ever had here. I wasn't exactly a witness to it, but a while back a video of a cartel killing was kinda circulating. Some people might know the one I'm talking about. I've never watched the full video, but I unfortunately saw screenshots of it by accident. It was a man, apparently a police officer but I'm not sure, and his son. The son couldn't have been older than 15. They beheaded the man, in front of his son, and then they cut the boy's still beating heart out of his chest while he was still conscious. After seeing it I just felt kinda off for a few days. I'm lucky to live in a pretty safe country and I'd never seen anything like that in my life. I don't know what business they had with the man, but the poor kid didn't deserve what they did to him. He was just a child. That was just pure evil. They are probably in denial. The best thing to do is keep a distance. Since you are close to them, the chances their kid one day targets you is high. Unfortunately, in these cases the parents stay in denial until their child brings home the head of a victim, not literally, but you get what I mean. I wouldn't say the kid is evil, but humans are predatory by nature. It's why we are competitive and value strength. But most of us are born with the ability to dial it back and act normal. Some of us aren't, and it shows from a young age. With proper help and treatment one can live a sort of normal life, but left unchecked and he may end up harming someone. It's unfortunate, but it happens. Not so much witnessed, but heard it via a podcast I listened to called Behind the Bastards. One of the more recent episodes talked a bunch about how the Japanese military had like sex slaves that they kept in the barracks or in work camps, and the torture they would inflict on these women, including sticking hot pokers up their privates and raping plus decapitating a woman who didn't want to keep servicing 40 men a day. The high command didn't even care. They just essentially sanctioned it so they could commit all this rape and pillaging after it had been going on for so long. I think if I'm remembering the numbers right, it was close to 400,000 women they raped, tortured and killed from Manchuria, Korea, and China. A lot of those women were killed to silence them so they couldn't talk about what they experienced. And the world did nothing. Part of that was likely cause nobody wanted to piss off Japan, but also because the Japanese military took and burned all the records and evidence so they couldn't be held accountable. That is true evil. That was sick, but what makes me angry is that these abuses are not recognized in Japan. The Japanese population is held in the dark. We do not need to hold this against their young population, but that is something different from learning from the mistakes made in the past. A completely different attitude I saw in Germany, where school kids visit concentration camps and are taught what happened in 1914 to 1945. The country became a world leader as a result of realizing that mistakes should not be repeated and compassion is required, not brute force. Japan doesn't even acknowledge their role in World War II as aggressors. I went to the Edo Tokyo Museum, and in the World War II section, it was mentioned that they were attacked by the Americans, followed by the bombings and how the country pulled through. Nothing at all on their attack on SE Asia, where I'm from, and how these countries suffered during the Japanese occupation. It was infuriating. Germany, in contrast, acknowledged their past and made sure to educate their children on it. It was a very big contrast in attitudes. When I worked in a convenience store, I served an elderly lady who had a lot of shopping. She had 2 heavy bags full of food. I packed her bags for her, and a colleague of mine offered to help her take them to her car when she said she didn't have a car and was going home by bus. Then a woman who was standing nearby asked her which bus she was getting, said she was going the same way, and offered to carry her shopping to the bus stop. The elderly lady was happy with this arrangement, thanked the woman profusely and handed her shopping over. They both left the store together, then the woman broke into a run and took off with both bags of food, jumping onto a nearby bus and then laughing and giving the finger to the elderly woman stranded on the pavement as the bus drove away. I have to wonder about the soul of those who willingly take advantage of vulnerable people. Me and my friend were out in the woods doing target practice with his .243 Winchester rifle. After about 5 minutes of shooting targets, he told me to go get another log, which was a foot-long log, what we were shooting at with a paper target taped on it. I went and got a log and placed it on the ground about 100 feet where we were shooting from, taped the target on and then bang, I jumped back out of pure shock, looked at the log and I seen a bullet hole around the bullseye of the target. Then he said, "Shit, I missed." Edit: holy shit guys, I just wanted to tell a story, not get fucking bullied about my decisions. Seriously, stop. This started when I was 14. There's this asshole in my grade who targets a girl for a while, makes comments on their body. He commented on my large chest, tries to date them, then ends up stalking them online. If they say no, then assault them if they agree to it. Then when someone stands up to him, he threatens to commit suicide. The school has done absolutely nothing about it aside from get me out of his classes. I was stalked, but luckily not assaulted. It's taken people until my junior year to come forward. When I was a freshman, he threatened to shoot up the school because his GF broke up with him. I fucking hate his guts and wish the worst on him. I was part of a project to get a software vendor to customize some of their code for us. The rep they sent to deal with us was a chain-smoking slime bag, who would listen to the changes we wanted to make and go into theatrical gyrations of disbelief, facepalm, hands on head, head on table. Then one of the trainers they sent to get us up to speed on using the software let it slip that with some simple configuration changes the software could already work the way we wanted. Basically we had them red-handed trying to get us to pay for expensive unnecessary customization, and playing to the hilt how difficult it would be. Ended up as a lawsuit. I was about 4 years old and my parents and I were at a neighbor's house. Their son was my age and we were friends. We were playing in his room. Randomly, he still slept in a crib. So we're playing and he goes and locks the door. Why does a 4-year-old have a lock on his door? I have no idea. Old house, probably from former owners. So then he unlocks the wheels of this crib, pushes me up against a wall with my arms pinned. We're laughing the whole time. He locks the wheels, climbs into the crib and starts pulling my hair and punching me repeatedly in the head. I started screaming. Luckily my dad heard and he ran to the room. When he couldn't open the door, he kicked it down. I recall he grabbed the kid and launched him at a wall. He crumpled to the ground. He flipped the crib away from me and scooped me up. My last memory of that night was leaving the house while the kid's parents smacked the shit out of him. The next year we were in the same school for kindergarten. He was still unstable, fighting a lot and pulling down his pants in front of people. I have no idea whatever happened to him as we moved. When we were kids my best friend Mac's dad used to beat him and scream at him, in front of me and our other friends. Mac was kind of a scrawny and uncoordinated kid, and think his dad thought it would make him stronger and more disciplined, but it really did the opposite in that he just became a fearful submissive people pleaser as he got older. He always did what he was told and never resisted his parents on anything, something my mom tried to show to me as an example of how a kid should behave. I inherited my father's indomitable hellraiser spirit, and I think my mom secretly wished I could have been as afraid of and submissive to her in exactly the same way. I kept trying to tell her Mac only acted that way cause his parents were like Butters' parents from South Park. He was very much our Butters / Milhouse / regular-sized Rudy. but she wouldn't ever believe us. Our other friend Lawrence occasionally tried to broach the subject to his parents, but ultimately I guess was also too cowardly to flat out say Mac's father was an evil piece of shit.